AG versus OSP. Abusuya saa case we no yaba aba be breaki ehun nsem bebre ede amamo President Mahama finally waba aba be breaki silence on AG versus OSP. Ni case na abusuya and President Mahama wabake effective special prosecutors power. Abusuya ose special prosecutor no owo yamane kwan anase owo kwan bi se se ye fa so na ono ankasa tumi de prosecute oye independent office according to President Mahama no into the President Mahama no ocha opese oche se se ye fine ways and means bia na special prosecutors office no omo ankasa etumi omo prosecutions ene wa bake the OSP officer ebusuya yenso ye ba ababe breaki ede amamom yanko na yankonkuti ensem bia ekoso ewo political highway so unsubscribe ya subscribe na hit on the notification bell so na be any update bia be drop no onso onsa ebetumi akabi aha gossip politics TV so
Now, President John Dramani Mahama says he wants an efficient office of the special prosecutor. Now, this is the clearest indication of where the executive sits on the debate surrounding the prosecutorial powers of the OSP since a high court ruled the corruption ombudsman could not prosecute cases by itself without the express approval of the Attorney General. Now, this is President Mahama at the May Day celebrations in Koforidua, where he emphasized the relevance of the institution in Ghana's anti-corruption framework. Take a listen.
Through our Resetting Ghana agenda, we're now aggressively pursuing growth and job creation. We'll not just manage the economy, we'll expand it to create jobs and prosperity for the Ghanaian people. Our mission is clear. We want to turn stability into opportunity. Under the Resetting Ghana agenda, we'll continue to prioritize the creation of decent jobs for our youth and Ghana's workforce. By investing in value addition and the digital economy, we will ensure that the Ghanaian worker is not just employed but empowered. A stable economy is only the foundation. Having successfully restored macroeconomic stability through our Resetting Ghana agenda, we're now aggressively pursuing growth and job creation. We will not just manage the economy, we will expand it to create jobs and prosperity for the Ghanaian people. Our mission is clear. We want to turn stability into opportunity. Under the Resetting Ghana agenda, we'll continue to prioritize the creation of decent jobs for our youth and Ghana's workforce. By investing in value addition and the digital economy, we will ensure that the Ghanaian worker is not just employed but empowered. A stable economy is only the foundation.
That's the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. I'll bring in now two political commentators, Selman Owusu with Movement for Change, and Dr. Joshua Zato, a center-right and liberal conservative leaning political scientist. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Ghana tonight. And I'll start off with you, Doc. For the first time, we're hearing the president concisively on this matter. He says we need an efficient office of the special prosecutor. In his words, there is space for that, and one that will have special prosecutorial powers. How does this come to you?
Good evening to you, Kameni, and good evening to your listeners and those watching all over the country. I think that we've been down this road before. And so one may want to be skeptical, but I want to believe the president for what he said. If you remember, we got here when majority members of parliament threatened to pass a bill, cancel this office. It took the intervention of the president to say that no, that office must stay. Then we had nothing. Until for us to hear that his Attorney General is in court arguing that the OSP doesn't have the power to prosecute without getting permission from him. was exactly the same reason why the OSP was established not to do. So we now come to this decision because I've heard a lot of people, a lot of legal scholars say that no, in the creation of the office of the OSP, they already have that express permission from the Attorney General to prosecute. And so the idea that the same Attorney General is now arguing that they need permission is mute. Either way, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with what I've heard. I want to take it to the market. That the president is saying that there's enough room for the OSP to exist, and that he will be committed to making sure that office exists. I'm prepared for that. I want to take that. I want to believe him.
Dr. Zato, if you're going to have to turn down the volume of your set and listen to me over the Zoom connection. If anything at all, we see consistency in the president's outlook for the office of the special prosecutor, correct?
Yes, that is true. That's what I'm saying. That, in fact, is the only reason why I say that I'm prepared to believe him. See, in any government or any political party, you can have the hawks and you can have the doves. The hawks try to have their way, the doves try to have their way. In this particular case, I believe that there are so many hawks within the government who want to see the OSP go. Then I also believe that there are enough doves in the government who say that it will tarnish the reputation of the president if such a huge office is dismantled, especially coming on the back of the fact that the same president supervised or was in office when a chief justice was removed. So I know that people saying that it doesn't matter what it is, even if it's not the substance, but the optics look bad, so don't do it. Now, from where I'm standing, when it came to the issue of the Chief Justice Tokono, the hawks had their way. But I'm beginning to believe that in this particular instance, the doves will have their way. And I think the president is listening more to the doves.
You know you're comparing apples and oranges in the case of the former Chief Justice and now the case of the prosecutorial mandate of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But I'll let that slide and then have us talk about what the president's remark today, what signal it sends not only to his party, but also in terms of the case in court right now.
Thank you. Kameni, if you say no, but I think that what you raised is an important point, so we shouldn't set it aside. Sometimes it's important to compare apples to oranges because there's value in that.
Why? Apples and oranges don't come from the same the same gene or species. Why are we comparing that?
It doesn't matter because sometimes there's value in comparing similarities and there's also value in comparing differences.
What value do we get comparing the case before us now, the prosecutorial mandate of the OSP, to a case, a petition that removed the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokono?
Thank you. We are talking about prosecution. Where is it done? In the courts, right? So in order to have an effective and a successful prosecution, you need to have an independent judiciary and an independent OSP. If you remember, Transparency International in their annual outlook recorded that one of the reasons why Ghana did not perform very well in the annual review is because they thought that there was kind of an avalanche, an attack on the independent bodies that are supposed to fight corruption. In this case, the prosecution bodies and the prosecutorial bodies and the judiciary. So that is where this link comes in. My point is that the same president who was seen to have been the one doing this, if he's seen to have been that under these two, it will look like a coordinated plan to dismantle the independent bodies in charge of corruption. That is why I was bringing it. And that is why I'm saying that the doves in the government had won. And that the president is saying that one is enough. I think that there's enough room for the OSP to grow, there's enough room for the OSP to mature, and there's enough room to give them that support. So I think that it sends a signal to Parliament. Remember, that is where the coup or the near coup started. It also sends a signal, a powerful one, to his Attorney General. Now look, I want to see this office grow, I want to see this office prosper, and you have a duty and a responsibility to make that happen in the courts.
Very well. Doc, we'll end our conversation here for now. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the other side of our discuss today. Solomon couldn't join us as a result of poor network. But Dr. Zato, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Dr. Joshua Zato is a center-right, liberal, conservative-leaning political scientist, and we've just had a chat on the president's latest remark on the prosecutorial powers of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Remember that this case seeking to determine whether or not the corruption ombudsman could prosecute cases by themselves in court without the approval of the Attorney General is still at the Supreme Court. We'll bring you more on that story in later broadcasts. Right now, however, I want to turn attention to the balance sheet of the central bank, because the Bank of Ghana 2025 financial report has caused an uproar in political and financial circles about the profit and loss figures. Tonight beat projections, they say. A stable currency and low interest rates, we've seen them. Nonetheless, it is the cost of achieving this economic improvement that has generated debate. The central bank posted some 15 billion cedis in losses for the year under review, nearly double the negative equity for the same period the year before, that is 2024. Even then, critics say this reported loss is understated, and here's why.
If you go into what in simple accounting terms I'll call the balance sheet of the bank, you will find out that the equity position has shifted by about 35 billion. The negative net equity has gotten worse by about 35 billion. That tells you, first, the headline real loss. But even for that 35 billion, is because when they realized they were making losses, they decided to sell a lot of our gold, not account for it properly under equity, and rather pretend that it is revenue. And it is that they've used to discount the 44 to bring it down to 35. There are amazing things in this report, but because they don't want you to read it, and they want you to follow this narrative that inflation is down and all of those things that they are saying, that's why they quickly rushed to do a press conference even before the numbers themselves were released. And we would like to serve notice to the managers of the central bank to walk away from the heavy politicization that they are getting into. The true operating loss of the central bank is about 44 billion Ghana cedis, and we'll prove this to Ghanaians when we engage Ghanaians in the coming days in the minority press conference. Now, on a second point, if they want to make the argument that there is a policy value for the losses that they have incurred, then the first thing they should do is to eat humble pie. The first thing they should do is to concede that they were scamming Ghanaians when in 2024, they pretended they didn't know why the central bank had made losses. Remember that in 2024, when the Bank of Ghana had reported 10 billion as its loss for 2023, they said it was criminally mismanaged and that the governor needed to resign in 21 days. In 2025, they are reporting 15 billion loss. How do we describe that? But I'm telling you this afternoon that it's not even 15 billion. If you work into the details, and you can get accountants to look at the full numbers for you, the true operating loss is about 44 billion, which we'll be explaining to the people of Ghana in the coming days. So if 10 billion.
That's Kojo Opon Kroma of Wansi RUAB MP, who's disputing the loss posted, the loss figures posted by the central bank for the year under review 2025, that is. We also know that the Member of Parliament Finance Committee, Atta Issa, has vehemently disagreed with that position. Take a look.
Financial reports, if you look at the IFRS reporting standard and the Bank of Ghana's law, no public institution consider a loss by adding the operational loss to that of the OCI. You do not add other comprehensive income loss plus the profit or loss for the year. It is not done anywhere and under any accounting standard. The truth of the matter is that an OCI represents an exchange effect. It is not a cash or an operational loss. So let's not mislead Ghanaians to saying that the loss is 44 billion. Nobody. You can go to any company. The law says that you must report the operational profit or loss for the year. then account for the exchange difference as it is done by IS 21. That shows the effect of the exchange differentials. Those are not operational loss or cash loss. The second thing is that we are here because Bank of Ghana has made a headline loss of 15.6 billion compared to 9.4 billion in 2024. Now, the difference here is that the 2024 loss of 9.4 billion translated into an exchange rate of
okay, abusia we ne ensema ekoso e political highway so President Mahama and finally wa back OSP's office say OSP no say Syria na or Syria enye easy grab that matter some je pene kokutiza in some way e de mi aha gossip politics TV so better